welcome to, was this episode 5? Episode 5 of the Furiously Eclectic podcast. And I'm here with...
I am GM Age, creator of the Age of Adventure RPG. Nice one. I was ready though. I was ready.
And I'm also here with...
Phzoul, and I am the creator of the one-shot RPG system and adventures.
And I'm Kersus, and I'm not the creator of anything. I'm just here.
You're the creator of this podcast.
Yeah, and Furiously Eclectic People. So there you go.
The #1 Discord server on the interwebs. Isn't that your motto?
That's not my motto, but I appreciate that everyone's saying it.
It's what the young kids are saying.
Yes.
Mhm.
And, well, all ages, right? We're pretty
true.
happy
I'm not
with
ageist.
everybody.
Nice. Thanks for calling me out.
So one of the initial things I was thinking we'd talk about, since it was mentioned in our little pre-chat, is the idea, like when you get an inspiration for an adventure or a game or whatever you want to play, do you need to run that soon, and you lose it, or can you hold on to it for like 6 months and then run it? What about you, Phzoul?
Well, that's a good question. I think there's definitely moments of inspiration or, I guess, flow. Like, obviously, if I get an adventure idea today, it's been inspired by something. And I'm going to feel like I want to scratch that itch as soon as possible. But that's not always possible. The reality is, getting players and things like that. There's always a reason why you can't run it. Um, so it can be put on the shelf, but I'll tell you, when you're outside of that inspiration mode or zone, it doesn't quite feel the same. And I don't know, Adrian, if you feel like this, but so here's a great example. There are published adventures that I've written. If I go back and read them now, I don't know who wrote them. I'm like that. I'm not in the same mindset. I'm not in the same headspace. I could not write that today. So because I was in a zone, I was in a mode, I was inspired. So yeah, so I guess that would be my take on it. It's always best to run it when you're in flow or in the zone.
Mm-hmm. Age?
Yeah, I'm pretty much the same. When I have an adventure I want to run, I suppose I've had 2 different versions of me creating adventures. I've had where I played a lot of fighting fantasy game books, so I was inspired by a lot of those. But similar to Phzoul, I thought, oh, this would make a good, one shot. So then I'd scrap something together, but I'd pretty much run it. I'd just post it straight away, and normally we get players. Whereas now I'm converting a lot of like OSR or one-shot games I've heard of. But similarly, I won't, if I prepare it and convert it to Age of Adventure, I pretty much post it and run it straight away. And unlike Phzoul, I don't really go back and look at anything I've run other than what I currently am looking at running. So it would be interesting, actually, for me to go back and look at some of the old stuff.
Yeah, it is a bit surreal. It's interesting to do that. I do have a question for you, Age, on the, I guess, in terms of how do you stay inspired to stick with fantasy? I go through, and the reason why I ask is, if somebody told me I had to run fantasy games for the next year, I'd probably go crazy. I don't know if I could do it. I need to constantly be switching it up. So how do you keep that? How do you keep your inspiration on fantasy?
Yeah, well, the good news is, I suppose, for me, is that I don't feel it's any effort. I suppose, love the genre, and I find it easy to run and create fantasy type adventures. So I've never really thought of, it doesn't feel forced, or I feel like, oh, I have to run another fantasy game. But what might balance that is a lot of the one shots I play, probably, like whether it's Traveller or other types of games, Call of Cthulhu, maybe that balances out. So I'm getting my a taste for other games, and that helps me return to fantasy. I don't know. I've never really thought. It's another thing I've really never thought of.
Oh. Well, I mean, do you run other genres, or you run fantasy and you play other genres?
Yeah, I only run the fantasy and I play other genres, yeah. Yeah.
It's interesting you did say something, and sorry, Curses, for taking the, just quite I'm just curious. It's interesting when you said it's easy to run. I would 100% agree with you that if somebody said, "You need to run a D&D or a fantasy game tonight," I could probably come up with a game in about 15 minutes, right? It's pretty easy to bring up that to create an adventure in that genre. Whereas I find other genres, I'd be like, "Oh no, I need a few days."
Mhm.
Mm.
I
Well,
would
that's
agree with that
interesting
on
because
my
you
side.
do have a lot of other you've got a lot of one-shot RPG non-fantasy genres. So that's interesting. You find them harder
Oh
to come
yeah,
up with.
actually, I would say it's more non-fantasy than fantasy. I think I have
Hmm.
42 titles. I would say maybe 3 or 4 of them are fantasy. The rest are in other genres.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah,
okay.
yeah. Yeah, so
Well,
fantasy
we
isn't actually, I mean, obviously I started in D&D back in the '80s, but we very quickly migrated to other systems. Top Secret, Robotech, Palladium,
oh,
um, and really,
original Top Secret.
yeah, the original Top Secret, classic Marvel. And when we went into the '90s, D&D really just fell away. Fantasy fell away. It was primarily other thing. Now it did come back in a big way, and it's an important pillar, I guess, today of what we play. But a weird thing happened in the mid '90s, and I don't give myself credit to it, but it's probably why I publish my own stuff. In the mid '90s, we abandoned almost every published system. We wouldn't play games that other people wrote. And that went on for decades. In fact,
Why?
the first time that I ran an adventure written by someone else was within the first time in. So I did back in the early days, but I would say in the last 2 decades, the first time I ran an adventure written by someone else was within the past 2 years. Why? Um, that's a great question. We played a lot. So we would have burned back in the old days. There weren't a lot of published adventures, so we would have burned through
Mhm.
anything like that. So we had to come up with adventures. So there's myself and one other GM, Trevor. We'd alternate GMing. We literally had to come up with adventures on the spot. Um, and we really got, and I'll tell you, we just really got. Both of us don't like the idea of I got to look up the rule. I got to go to the book. Like, we're very immersive players. I don't like I don't like having a debate over things, although we have back in the day. Um, so I think we decided to go our own way on systems because and I'm not saying we thought we could do it better. We thought it would better fit our gaming style. Yeah.
Hmm.
Now I have rediscovered now again within the last couple of years, I have rediscovered an appreciation for for other systems again, and I've really have like Dragonbane. I love it. Some of the other Free League stuff like Blade Runner, I love it. Some of the other stuff I'm not a big fan of, but yeah. So I'm enjoying rediscovering systems and adventures now.
Is that
And
why you created your
I like
own
I
RPG?
like I like your system too. Well, I would throw that back. Why did I create my own system? Uh, That actually wasn't really by choice. When I started One Shot RPG, I didn't do any mechanics. I only wanted to do adventures. Here's adventure ideas. And my idea was if I didn't marry myself to a mechanic and to a particular system, that it could be used in every system. But it backfired. It backfired a bit because my pitch was One Shot RPG. Somebody can't show up tonight. Run one of my games. And I kept getting GMs emailing me going, yeah, you can't run your game. There's no system. And so you're putting it on me prep it and to come up with stats. So I realized that I needed a system. So the one-shot RPG system evolved out of a system called CRAP, Cinematic Role-Playing Anarchy and Pandemonium, which was the core system that we used for 2 decades. So why did you create your own system? Why aren't you playing D&D? Throw that back at you.
You'll have to go watch episode number 4 for
Okay, well,
that.
I will. You don't need to repeat it.
You can give them a
I
quick
want to.
summary.
I played a lot of long campaigns, top secret. We played a 10-year campaign, and
Oh, wow.
I was
Yeah.
playing Advanced Recon, and also Advanced Fighting Fantasy. Yeah, and when COVID hit, I lost all those campaigns. They were all in person. They sort of disappeared, and I discovered this thing called the online gaming community, and just started playing in a lot of one shots of different systems I'd never heard of. Like literally, I was saying to Dwight the last episode, the local game store pretty much had D&D, had all the major TSR type stuff back in the 80s, early 90s. But with COVID, I played in a one shot. So I was my idea was I was going to play a different one shot every time, like different system. And someone ran Lasers and Feelings, and it was like a Japanese setting.
Okay.
And after it, and a light just switched on, and I thought, oh wow, I wonder if you could do a fantasy version of that, because it was so simple, the mechanic. And then I went down a rabbit hole finding all of these Lasers and Feelings hacks, and then one thing led to another, and bolted on things that I wanted to see in a role-playing game, and there you go.
Oh, very cool. I'm not familiar with Lasers and Feelings, so I'll have to check it out.
Yeah.
I think I checked out a Star Trek one that was based on Lasers and Feelings that I wanted to try out. But age, when you guys were talking about going back to, or when Phzoul was talking about going back to the old adventures and reading them, have you gone back to Portrait of a Warlock? Because that was, I think, the first one I played that you ran.
I haven't actually gone back to it, but I should really run that more, even at cons. That first one. No, I haven't gone back to it other than have all the memories. I mean, I've probably run that to the ground. I've run that so often. I probably will one day revisit those. It's already part of. It's available, but I should actually create more one shots that other people can share.
I will tell you one thing I found really strange when I started attending games online is the idea that a GM would run the same adventure twice for different people. That was a completely foreign concept to me. So if I think about the last 2 decades, before COVID and going online, I would never have run the same adventure twice. Ever. Run it because, of course, I'm only dealing with my group. So I guess why wouldn't you play it again?
Yeah.
But
Pre-COVID, the same. Yeah.
But I find it interesting. Like I belong to a couple of cons, and there's I attend a couple of cons, and there's some GMs that I see, and I go, oh yeah, this is the third time I've seen them at the con, and they're running the same adventure. So
I hear that a bit too. Yeah.
So there's 2 adventures I've run in the past that I've run them numerous times, and one of them is a Wild West using a Traveler rules, and it has some twists and turns. And one of them is the sample adventure in Merkboria. And both of them, I'm always fascinated when I run it, how a completely different group of people just can go. It's just a totally different adventure, like with what I have in those 2 adventures.
Yeah.
It isn't linear, and even though the second one I mentioned is just a dungeon, like there's so many ways to resolve the situations and get out alive that it amazes me at the resourcefulness. So I love running those specific 2 multiple times.
Yeah,
but
I agree. I never thought I'd run the same thing twice, but now every month I run the same adventure twice, and it's actually really good because you're more familiar the second time. So it's easier to run, but yeah, like Dwight was saying, you cannot predict what players are going to do. I mean, the last 2 sessions I ran, it's really fun.
Very
actually
different. it's very different with players you know and players you don't know. I was trying to play test an
Right.
adventure that I was going to run at a convention, and I play test it with different groups of friends. And in some of them, I let go through it multiple times. There's two players I think that went through it maybe 3 or 4 times, and I was trying to get it down to the 4 hours, and I was struggling. We were going 6 hours, like 8 hours, like it just I could, and I was worried going into this convention. I just can't my friends just can't do this adventure in 4 hours, and I've tried cutting all this stuff out, and then I get to the convention and they were done in 3
Wow. Yeah.
because they just blew
You're
through
right.
it. They ignored all
Yeah.
the stupid stuff that
Yeah.
sidetracks you, but my friends just could not stop getting sidetracked.
Yeah. You're right. Your regular group is very different, and I have gotten an appreciation for rerunning the same adventure because, and it's interesting. Like the regular group, they know me so well, I know them so well. I'm not surprised. Perhaps it's off. Like it's more like a comfortable, familiar relationship. I'm not as surprised as often by my regular group as I am at a con.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
The interesting thing
It's
that I've
also
run into
exciting
that,
though.
sorry,
It
you're
is.
good.
No, I love it. It's well, I've often said if the adventure ends exactly how I wrote it, then I've done something wrong.
Interesting.
Yeah, that is interesting.
But you have plots in yours more often than not, right?
I do, and I've struggled with it. It's an interesting, yeah. So one of my personal struggles over the years has been to fight against uh, the railroading at a plot. A plot can result in a railroad, right? So I try to, I guess I try to resist that. I guess I try to. I would say some of my earlier stuff, I go back and I read them, they could be a bit more linear. I try to be a bit more flexible this time, but it's a constant challenge for me because plot is so important to when I write, I want the plot, but it also puts guardrails on you.
Do you think there's a difference between a plot and things that are just happening regardless of what the players do? Like there's the kind of this narrative, but whether the players engage with it is different. Is that what you mean by plot, or is a plot like specifically engaging the players?
No, you know what? There's a huge difference between one shots and campaigns. So if I have one shots, the plot is more driven by me. Um, but so remember the Tomb of the Lizard King game I was going to run? So I ran that as a campaign with my group, and I write the first session, and I don't write anything past that because I want it to flow kind of organically. And so campaigns are honestly like they're so driven by the players, so driven by the characters that it'd be like you would end up in a completely different place with different groups of people. I find one shots it's a little bit more predictable, but again, all it takes is one player to throw it into a direction
Mm.
you were not anticipating, and hopefully it's a good direction and not a bad direction, right? Because you can get some people who take it to places you don't want to go. Yeah.
Hmm. I think I didn't run into the idea of like you got 4 hours for your one shot or whatever time you've
Yeah,
decided, and you need to come to a satisfactory conclusion. I think age is the one who probably pushed me the most on this idea that when we're going to have a one shot, he won't like people want to see a satisfactory conclusion instead
that's
of
right. Yeah.
let's just see how far we get and then that's the end of the session. And
No.
if you didn't complete it, it's not my problem.
Yeah. Yeah.
Those
That's
are
why
two
I do
different
my
fields.
three hour event that drives once players drive it until we hit hour three. Once once the hour three hits, I drive it right to the end. Right. I wanna finish. So it has worked wonders. It's rare that I don't finish on the 4 hour mark.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So I know, and
I don't know
I
how
didn't
to
get to say this to you, but last episode, uh, Age and I were talking about a traveler adventure I'd run or in May. I guess it's May now because we're in July. And it was heavily influenced by the games I'd played with you. that the whole experiment for me of writing it from scratch and running it and having this kind of idea that I wanted to drive it home and make sure we were done in 4 hours. But I didn't have a plot, I think, that engaged the players. I had a narrative that was going on behind, and they engaged with it for the most part. And in the end, they're the ones who triggered the kind of time, but they triggered a self-destruct. So I didn't actually have to push. So it ended up working out
Okay.
quite well from
Yeah.
my point of view.
But like
But I wanted to give you
well,
kudos because that whole adventure was really based on
I,
my experiences of
you know,
gaming with you.
I think I might have played that with you. Was that we're on the space station and
Oh, you were the player.
we're
You
yeah,
were
yeah,
in it.
yeah.
Gosh, my memory's terrible. Yeah,
No.
but that was
Yeah.
100% inspired by playing with you.
Yeah, so I'll tell you there's a couple of secret sauces to one shot. So one is that at 3 hours you drive it home. The second is character backgrounds or hooks, and they can really be simple, but it so changes the game. Um, and it could be something as simple as you two are brothers or siblings, or you create some kind of relationship with an NPC. So if you look at a lot of my adventures online or the published ones, you'll see there's always character background hooks that don't impact on your creativity. But you can create whatever character you want, right? So it's not, and I'm not a fan of pre-gens. We can talk about that. I actually despise pre-gens quite strongly.
Yes, we should talk
Um,
about that.
but So I want you to create your own character, but I don't want it to be insert random character A into random adventure B. I want there to be some type of hook. So I typically hand out hooks for my published stuff that just give people a little bit of it's just greater immersion and they're more invested in the game and they work wonders. I have a great one. One of my first adventures I wrote was Clowns of Funland, and the only hook is you're all family, right? That's it. Do whatever you want, but you're all related somehow. And I couldn't imagine running that adventure without that hook. It wouldn't even be half as fun or immersive, right? 'Cause suddenly you care on a different level. Go ahead.
That adventure you ran, that was John Wick. That those
Yeah,
hooks you used in that were inspirational to me, and I've used that idea. And I don't know how well my hooks how well my hooks worked in that traveler scenario, but I had each
yeah. No,
player
you
had
did
some
that.
kind of
That's
hook.
right. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But it was
Well,
based on your
it influenced my so your hook to me the whole time. So as opposed to just randomly going from room to room, the whole time I was thinking about that hook, and I was thinking about, okay, how do I accomplish my goal without the other players? So it was even though I might not have been vocalizing it, it was influencing my choices, which
What was it?
was more
Because
immersive.
yeah, Dwight spoke about that adventure last time. What was your hook? Do you remember?
I had to get the data, the material. I had to get the research data. If I remember the map, there was like a medical lab or something on the up on the right hand side, and some
yes.
of the NPCs were in there. Um, I was underneath that. I was trying to get up in there so I could access the data terminal and take all the research data without
The other
anybody
players
else
didn't
knowing.
know.
No.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I didn't really think about it at the time, but or maybe I did as a subconscious thing, just the idea that it didn't matter what character you had for the backgrounds. I think I assigned the backgrounds. Sometimes I've done it randomly, but that time I think I assigned them based on who I thought could handle being certain. Because
Yeah.
only some people want to do things that are counter to what or could handle being counter to the party without disrupting the game. And so I kind of
Yeah.
I did cherry pick a bit.
For sure.
But not always. Sometimes, like in a convention, for sure, I do that random. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. So I find those very effective at creating immersion and a memorable experience for the character, for the player. Sorry. Yeah.
now there's a difference then, though. Then because there are times when I've seen people do, or here's 4 background things, you guys pick one when you pick your character, or that's a secret between the GM and the player. Do you like the secret, or that everybody could see which background they could pick?
Mm. That's a good question. I don't often use. Yeah, so yeah, sorry. I would say there are definitely background hooks that are secrets, but I would say they're secrets, but they're not against the party, right? They're in the sense that they're not conspiratorial. It's a secret for the character, but it wouldn't necessarily. They're not working against the party as a result of it. I guess I would say typically.
That was a balance. That was a balance I was trying to do. I warned you guys at the beginning of that session there could be PvP, so that everybody would be cool with it if it happened. But I was hoping for more of everybody kind of trying to complete their goal without, fighting
Yeah,
each other.
that's what I try. When it comes to one shots at conventions, I just try to avoid PvP because I don't know them. I don't know the players, and the odds are if somebody one player kills someone else's character, it's going to be hard feelings. I'm guessing.
So one of the things I enjoy with the one shots that happens once in a while, one of these kind of neat experiences is when you have a table that's all GMs that are
Yeah,
usually
yeah,
they're the primary GMs of their group and they're here playing your game. You get a completely different experience with those players.
definitely. Yeah, because they're going
Yeah,
along with
100%.
you, right?
Yes,
They're not trying
exactly.
to. Right. Yep.
That's
They
a
get
big
it.
one because yeah,
They get the tropes. They get whatever.
when you
I'm
drop
going
a
to
hook,
throw.
they don't avoid it
I,
like the plague.
I am going to throw something back because I know you like OSR style gaming, and I enjoy it. But there is a level of paranoia associated with OSR games that or distrust. Like you don't trust the GM in an OSR game. Like the GM to some extent is more out to kill you than in any other game, right? Like otherwise, why would you spend 30 minutes of real time trying to decide whether you're going to go through a door?
You think it's because they don't trust the GM, like the Knights of the Dinner Table style
It's not a
Hackmaster
trust in. It's not a
adversarial?
malicious trust. It's not a. Well, maybe they don't trust the level of trust is different, right? It's different because more lethal, um, traps everywhere, monsters. Like, do you get what I'm trying to say? Like, it's a very different feeling for me because in any other game, I wouldn't have the party sitting there going, "Do we go through the door? Do we not go through the door? Do we talk?" Like that whole. I guess they're not trusting the environment, the setting,
Hmm.
the genre. I don't know what it is, but there's a definite lack of trust in the sense that you're paranoid, more paranoid than other games. Is that fair?
I'll ask Age after I say my thing what he does or what he thinks. But with me, I think that I have, especially with campaigns, maybe less with one shots, but with a campaign or a limited series where we're going to play 6 sessions of something, I will often describe specific things regardless of whether they're special, so that they don't know when they go into a new room or a new place whether it's special. So they got to interact with everything to find out if it's special. I will call for rolls to do something, like especially when traps are around. I don't want them to know that every candlestick's a trap. So, I will scatter, hey, well, where are you guys standing right now when they go to touch the candlestick? And maybe the candlestick's nothing, but I do that kind of periodically so that they never know which one's a bad thing and which one's a good thing and which one's
Yeah. So
nothing.
but you're creating paranoia.
Very, very much. What
Yeah,
about
yeah,
you, Age?
yeah.
Um, I mean, I enjoy like dungeon crawls and OSR type games, but I do find them more. I don't know if confrontational is the right word, but I do
Yeah,
feel it's
yeah.
more of us versus them. Whereas the more enjoyable games are the more like the story driven games where you've got the plot and um, you've got your characters, but you're not worrying as much. But that's just the style of the game, I think. I don't mind them. I played Shadow Dark recently, and I'd heard a lot about. I've played it once before, but even the game master was saying, you can try to avoid combat. You can die, and that sort of thing, and we sort of embraced combat, and I don't know whether he modified it so we sort of got through, but it was still enjoyable knowing that you could die at any moment, like in the adventure, and two of us did. It's just a different style of game, I think. I don't mind it. I don't like if there's secret agendas where another player's trying to do something separate and we don't know what's going on. I prefer everyone to be on the same page, though. I'm not a big fan of the secrets because it depends a lot on how the player handles it. If I have a secret that I know is going to make me go a different way because I have to play that character, I don't really like that. But
there is one
it's all on how the
player
GM manages it.
There's one player I had that if you gave him a secret, and this is on this server, that he will just tell everybody immediately. Like the moment you give him any kind of secret information, he will tell everybody, and that's great. But it's so it goes along with the idea of he just wants everybody to get along and be on the same page as well, right? But you're talking about OSR.
Yeah.
I think my personal opinion is the OSR gets a bit of a kind of that stereotype of it. It's really deadly, and it can be, but you can run epic Lord of the Rings style stuff with OSR. You can run all sorts of things, and I think our games in the 80s at least in the 80s were probably more epic than they were gritty. The gritty stuff actually didn't probably come about until we were adults.
Yeah, I do like gritty, and I do like consequences. I do like the threat. I have to admit, I am a bit bewildered by the OSR movement. I don't personally get it. Like Shadow Dark is a great example. Everybody's going Shadow Dark, Shadow Dark, Shadow Dark. When I got it, I was like, seriously, this is it? No thanks. And
I don't own it, so I don't know anything about it really, because I keep confusing Dragonbane with Shadow Dark.
I think the thing that made it great was its design. It's simplicity. It's really well designed. It has a lot of the ribbons that you can use to mark things, and it's really easy. It's just design is really good. I don't get why it's special. There's nothing special about it. It's D&D. It's D&D basic with maybe a few extra things. I might as well go back and play D&D. I guess I don't see what's innovative about it. It's basically taking someone else's idea and just making it look pretty, I guess.
You played it, Age. What do you think?
Look, I have to admit, sometimes I'll think back about games and it's all a mishmash. I'm like, I don't know if I played a different system because GMs tend to not necessarily run it rules as written. But the last adventure I played, he actually said, I'm going to run this rules as written. And there was a few things he mentioned, I'm going to do it this way because that's why the rules. And was it any different? Things like real-time torches. Wasn't really a fan, but yeah, that was interesting. Darkness being a real enemy, you have to pretty much stick with the person with the torch. I didn't really like that. Like no one has dark seeing except for the enemy, so that was a bit different. And what else was different about it? I mean, a lot of it was similar. It had the sort of D&D abilities and bonuses and that sort of stuff.
Yeah, and
the light is what really.
And I will tell you, I like characters that feel unique from each other, and I find OSR characters are kind of generic. They're just
these were very different. Everyone had a different, definitely defined. Yeah, like if you wanted to play a fighter with a lot of combat melee, you could not like Traveller. I know Traveller has similar sort of things, but you could choose pathways that you get a.
Yeah.
I had like after choosing my talents and my abilities, like I started as a half orc and I was a fighter, so I had +1 melee damage, and then my talent you roll randomly, and I also got a talent that was good in boosted my combat. They gave me a bonus. Your weapons give you a bonus, so you can definitely stack to be to stand out. And we had a magic user and a thief. So I felt there was good differentiation. Like I was definitely not doing the sneaky things because I just didn't have those, statistically those abilities. And the magic user obviously was the only one who could do magic. Although it has an interesting rule. I don't know if it's unique to Shadow Dark, where if you're a spellcaster, I think she had 1 or 2 spells, but if you try and cast a spell and you fail, that spell's gone. You can't use it again. You can only use it if it succeeds.
I saw that used in spellcraft and swordplay. And
Yeah.
I incorporated that into my Holmes game for a while. The idea that if you
So
cast a spell and succeed, you had to roll, and if you succeeded, you got to keep
yeah.
casting it until
So
you
you're
failed.
having to roll to cast every spell. Is that the idea?
Well, yeah, she only had one spell that she tried to cast, which was healing. She failed, so it didn't work, and she couldn't use it
Okay.
again
Yeah.
for the rest of the
Yeah. So
adventure.
that's more Deathbringer uses that system. So yeah. So there in the old D&D, it would just automatically work. You cast your heal
Mhm.
spell and it works. So I don't know if Deathbringer was the first, but that introduced that every time you cast a spell, you need to roll a spell check essentially, and if you get
Deathbringer.
over a certain amount.
That's
Yeah,
newer, isn't it? Isn't that a Shadow Dark expansion or something? Or
No,
is it?
so well, Deathbringer has been around for a long time, but they're coming out with a new version of it, partnered with the Shadow Dark folks. Yeah,
Ah, right.
oh.
yeah,
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 that's probably what I heard.
So
yeah.
I
You've
don't. Before we move away from the OSR thing, you've written an OSR adventure, have you not, Phzoul? The Mad Manor of Astabar?
That was actually so not OSR. That
No.
was D&D Next or Beyond. So in 2014, when D&D came out, they had an adventure contest. So when they just released kind of remember that they'd released this kind of preliminary rules for the next D&D. So they were doing an adventure contest, and I wrote that adventure and entered. Came in second, I think. Yeah, it is.
I have heard of that adventure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's by far my most successful adventure I've ever written.
Right.
I think I've
I might
had
run it. Is it
I
a
think
one
I've
shot?
had a it is, and it's great for. I'll tell you, the demographic that really resonated with it was dads running adventures for kids, which wasn't my intention, but that's how it ended up. Has a really cool
Mm.
twist at the end. I'll send you a PDF version of it. But yeah,
Okay. Yeah,
by
yeah.
far,
Yeah.
yeah, by far, it. Yeah, I think the number of downloads for Mad Manor of Astabar is easily 10 times everything else combined.
Wow.
Like
Wow.
so 40 titles versus it. Yeah, so it's my
Does it
it
count
was
that I
my.
downloaded it 60 times or?
That's all
I
right.
guess so.
$5 is
Yeah,
$5, man. Money is money. He
yeah,
doesn't mind who
yeah.
downloads it.
That's right.
So
Yeah.
in the chat, Madbard has said maybe the problem with OSR is that the villains are also clearly obvious versus some of the other games where humans can be the baddies.
Yeah. Good question, Mad Bard. Thanks for the
Yeah,
question.
yeah. Yeah, I think it's definitely
I
more
think they're
black and
definitely
white
it is
than
easier.
OSR.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Goblin. Well, I mean, if you think about it, in modern D&D, when you run into an like in modern day fantasy, you run into an orc or a goblin or something. You have to talk to them to figure out whether they're evil. In the old D&D, an orc is evil, right? A goblin is evil. It's roll initiative. There's no are you a good orc or a bad orc, right? That wasn't a thing. So
So
that's very
interesting that you say that because I was playing in like when we started this whole pandemic, going online, getting on Discord and playing games. I got into an OD&D campaign which I had an absolute blast with, and we were doing Palace of the Vampire Queen, which is one of those old school adventures, right? Um, and one of the things that I found by watching this, one of the things I was watching is that whenever the DM would have a bad guy, we would all find them a sympathetic character and want to ally with them. And everybody he would try to show as a good character, we would hate immediately and try to attack. And we were
interesting.
heroes. We were helping people and saving people, but every time it was presented that way, that it was always opposite. Like we were like allying with
Weird.
orcs and to do good things and be heroic and change. You don't have to be bad. You come with us. And then this druid that's there to help us, we would just want to kill it. This horrible evil druid.
Yeah.
Oh, you're ahead of the curve then.
I maybe.
Embracing the
Yeah.
bad guys.
But as a GM in a campaign, I've also noticed that if I ever try to generate a useful ally for the party, that they immediately find them suspicious.
Oh, really? Interesting. See, parent,
So I
you're
don't
good at
try that
creating
anymore.
paranoia. Yeah.
No, he's not very trustworthy. That's why.
That may be.
No. I I will tell you that I've had a good run with NPCs, and I've learned not to have obviously uh so an NPC that is not integral to the plot is worthless because you're going to forget about it.
Mhm.
It's going to be that tag along NPC, and someone goes, "Hey, what's the NPC doing?" And that's so embarrassing when that happens. So when I create NPCs, they're always integral to a plot. And there are a couple of campaign, like years long campaigns that I can think of where the MPs, where one or two NPCs were equal, if not more important than the players, as odd as that sounds, the characters.
Mhm.
Mm, They played such a central role. In fact, I can think of one NPC in particular where almost every over as the campaign evolved, almost every player would do whatever that was like completely loyal to that NPC, and that to me is you know I'm happy when I'm able to accomplish that level of immersion because again I've been there where I've been having the players reminding me shouldn't what did what's his name do it why didn't he attack and I'm like oh because I completely forgot about them.
But did those NPCs you're talking about that were so important, did they become important or were they important from the beginning?
I made them central to the plot. Yep.
Okay.
I can't think of a situation where I've had a random NPC that's I don't know, I guess maybe through gameplay there might be. I'm not to the same level though. I'm not to the same level. Uh, again, the NPC had a role to play, right? So it's not like so I didn't have to remember them because the story involves them, right? And
Gotcha.
for me, I found that's the easiest way to ensure an NPC is relevant and creates this very strong connection with the players.
See, I think my experiences when I was younger, or as a teenager at least, when I started gaming with more varied groups of people, is that I started to pull away from this idea of important NPCs because people would have these NPCs that they were attached to, or these NPCs that were really, not just patrons, but were just bigger than life. So you'd have this guy who's your patron, but he ends up being a dragon that wants to fight another dragon, and you're just a bunch of
Yeah,
guys running away from the final battle because you don't have anything to do with it. And that
yeah,
wasn't fun to me back when I was a teenager, and so I've pulled
oh yeah,
away from the idea of important NPCs. So my NPCs generally are just they can become important, but they
yeah,
don't I
yeah.
don't
They're not.
start them off
Yeah.
important.
So I would
Villains
actually add
accepted.
that. So I would add that as an essential component to a great adventure. So the background hooks, great NPCs, and the third and the fourth one, which I try to do in every single adventure, and it's a twist. There always has to be a twist
I agree. I
that
like the
they don't see
twists.
that they don't see coming. Yeah.
Yes, and I'm a sucker for an ally being a traitor. I'm a huge sucker for that.
The old double cross, eh?
Yeah. So
Yeah, well, what's great is if you have an so in a campaign, like this was an idea I had for as long far back as I can remember. I want and a critical NPC who is with them at the beginning, but by the end is the main villain, right? So through the course of events and gameplay, they have become they have become the enemy.
So I would say in my faraway land campaign, which is my only true ongoing campaign right now, every week, is that even the villains in that story, except there is a meta plot that's going on in the background that they're learning about, where there is, theoretically villains depending who you ally with, but the villains are the main forces that oppose the party are ones that
Yeah,
they've created themselves. Like
created.
I
Okay,
didn't
that's cool.
actually
Yeah,
start
yeah,
them. They've gone in and ticked off this creature or this faction.
yeah, yeah,
They've lost somebody that's gotten picked up by someone else, and various things have happened, and they've created the enemies. I didn't create the enemies for them. There's stuff going on, but they can choose to engage or not engage with,
yeah.
this
Yeah, that's
faction
cool.
attacking that
Yeah,
faction.
because it's much more personal and immersive when that happens, right? The stakes are higher.
I
Yeah.
think so. I think it was a learning experience for me. It's not like I knew that right away. I've learned in this
Yeah.
campaign how to better run a campaign. I think but the players are teaching me more so than I'm even as though I'm running the game, they're really teaching me how to run this
Yeah.
game by their
Yeah, that's
actions and
cool.
how they react to various things I throw at them. But I've never had a campaign run this long.
Have
Mad Bard
have
mentioned
either
that
of
is.
you oh, sorry.
Sorry, go
Oh,
ahead.
what's my bird thing? No, I was saying, have either of you ever used a plant? So a player who's in on it?
Paige?
Plant. A player character who's in on the plot
Oh,
to subvert the other players.
I'll give it so here's my favorite plant. So I convinced one of the so I am my main villain, and so right from session one of the players, their character was the main villain, and they knew it, and I knew it. Um, and they played for 3 game sessions, and I was coming up to a betrayal moment, and they had their own character ready to go. Was going to I actually introduced their character as an NPC, and on the 4th game session, I pulled the twist. I all of a sudden they weren't playing the villain anymore. All of a sudden during the betrayal, I took over that character. They took over the NPC. We swapped, and people couldn't believe it. I mean, they were
Oh, what?
completely floored. They were completely floored because they loved that character. Like they were like, no, 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 this can't be happening. Like they created real connections, and the player did a stellar job at playing the character. Like he was a real part of the group. When the betrayal happened, they were betrayed. They were literally betrayed.
So I want to
Did it
give two.
result in death?
No, I made sure it was clear lines. You're playing the villain, but you're not. But the villain, here's their motivation. You're not to do. So that's the thing. He knew he was the villain, but he didn't know the villain's plot. I said,
No,
this
I'm not
player.
worried about him. I'm worried about what the players did to him because I don't know if I'd be very happy with that.
The betrayal put them in a position where they had no ability to hurt him.
Ah,
He
fair
got
enough.
the drop on them. Yeah, yeah.
So I have two stories I'll try to keep quick. One is a shout out to Chris Clark. So I played at a convention game with him, and because I was staying at his house and he was driving me to GaryCon, and he was very nice to put me up and drive me to and from the convention. And he asked me on the way there, I said, "Hey, do you want to play an interesting character?" He didn't use the term plant, but he said, "You want to be the bad guy?" And I was like, sure, why not? And he gave me like 2 thick pages of background to read. And I read it on the way to the convention. And I sat down at the table. We picked our characters. And he kind of worked it out just right. And we just played. And I was kind of the person who was the spearheading this adventure, but I was really against the group. So I needed them to accomplish some goals so I could then turn on them and do all these terrible. I don't want to spoil the adventure itself, but then I was going to turn on them and spoil and go against them, and then I had to fight them. And of course, I had to die because it was a convention one shot, so there was no way I was going to survive, although I tried. But it was so much fun that idea of having somebody within the party has always appealed to me. That's in on it. And I thought about that with that traveler of pulling somebody aside and saying, "Hey, do you want to be a bad guy?" But I didn't. I went a slightly different direction with the dual saboteurs. Um, the other thing I want to mention is in my campaign along that lines. What happened was we had our main group, and one of the players had real life stuff, had to step out. So they were completing their mission, and they defeated the bad guy that was at that time, and then this other character reappeared and said, "Hey, here, you guys are all hurt. Eat these beans." And so they did. This is their friend. This it's an NPC, but it's their friend. Well, it was a changeling. It was somebody who could take on the
Okay.
form of someone
Yeah.
else, and and it caused them to all fall and get collapsed to the ground. And he just took all their treasure and left. And this is now this had became a recurring villain.
Wow. And
And
you
Cool.
so
wonder
now
why no one trusts you, man.
they never know when they see this character if it's the good Ceridian or the bad Ceridian. And then one time the player came back and I said, "Hey, do you want to be bad Ceridian for this adventure?" And he played bad Ceridian pretending to be good Ceridian through the adventure. And it was a blast. He turned on them in
That's
the end,
awesome.
of course. And they
Yeah,
fought.
that's awesome.
But that was a lot of fun. So
Awesome.
yes, no, nobody trusts me in that stuff in that way. Yeah.
You said Mad Bird had a question there, yeah.
He'd written that his stress level is not to anticipate anything as GM.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
and mentioned that he finds it easy to react to what the players do by getting fully into character. Dynamic enemies. But
Yeah.
I think along that line, I tend to not plan out what I think players are going to do anymore. I just see where it goes. What about you guys?
I mean, I think I'm a stickler to. I try and create scenes, and I only run one shot, so I always want to create like a beginning, middle, and end to make sure that it finishes satisfactorily. So yeah, that's sort of I don't mind what the players do in the middle. And I've played games where they don't even get to the end, but I don't find that very as satisfying. You know, if we have to end, time's up, you're here, or if I prefer that to happen than to rush them to the end. But I don't know. I am probably more a stickler to structure, structured scenes rather
I
than ad
I
lib.
will tell you so I recently ran an adventure by Scott Dorward called Fairyland.
Oh,
And
Scott Dorward.
yeah, so I asked someone over on the Illusion HorrorCon Discord. I said, "What is your favorite adventure to run?" And he said Fairyland, and I said, "Okay, I'm going to go find it. I'm going to run it for my group. It's a one shot." Um, and the interesting thing, it was so kind of fascinating to me because I am someone who does structure. I have plots, I have scenes. There's a flow. And what Scott Dorward's adventure is basically, here's a place, here's the people, here's their motivations. Good luck.
Sandbox.
That's it. That's it. Right. It is that kind of sandbox mentality. Maybe a few ideas for some scenes, but it's just completely driven by the characters. And I don't think until I ran that
Wow.
adventure, I've ever run anything quite like
Hmm.
that. And it
Yeah, I'm
Well,
gonna
turned
go
I
out
mean,
look
I
for
great.
it.
I know.
Yeah,
Yeah,
turned out
same.
great.
I'm just intrigued how that would work as a one shot where you're saying the players start, they get some hooks, or there's no hooks. You
Yeah,
just
no,
narrate
no,
that
no.
you're
There's a inciting event at the beginning that kind of gets things off, but how it really pans out after that is really driven by the players, right?
That
And again,
Graham Walmsley.
this idea that you have an NPC, you understand their personality, their motivation, what they're trying to accomplish, but they don't really have a role. There's no stated role for them. They're there in the town, and if the players happen to go to the general store, they're going to interact with them. But if they don't go to the general store, they don't play a role. I just thought that was a fascinating approach.
wow. That
Yeah.
Is
is
that the one by Graham Walmsley? Is it a
So
Cthulhu
Scott
Fairyland,
Dark one?
Doward.
Or is
it's
that a different
Cthulhu
one?
Dark. It's
Yeah.
Cthulhu Dark Fairyland. I thought Scott Dorward did it.
Oh, that is Graham Walmsley. Yeah, you're right.
Oh, it does have Scott Dorward listed there. And it's published by Graham Walmsley and it's written by Scott Dorward. Yes, sorry.
Dorward, yeah,
Ah.
My bad.
yeah,
Yep.
yeah,
Oh, it's
yeah.
modern day, is it? A modern day.
No, it's set in the late 1800s in Scotland.
Okay.
It
Yeah,
is now in my cart. I will buy that and
yeah.
have a read.
Yeah, it's fun. And
Um,
again, I strongly suggest Age you create some different versions of the game for different settings, like a non-fantasy version. I actually made a
I
character.
was
I made a
I was
mod.
waiting for
I
you
made
to
a.
do that. Weren't you going to do that for me?
Oh, you know what?
Modern Age of Adventure?
Yeah, I actually kind of did. I made a character and everything. Um, what did I do with it?
Share it with me.
I will. Yeah,
Yeah.
I
and
took
that's what
one
you
of
can
my.
call it,
I
Modern Age of Adventure.
Yeah, it's
You've
awesome.
heard
Yeah,
it
it's a great
first, the
name.
scoop.
It is. Yeah. No, and I thought it worked. I thought it worked well. I created a character. I have a campaign that's set in Rio de Janeiro. It's a modern day. The characters are it's kind of like Fast and Furious. They're kind of pseudo criminals, the good guys at heart. Yeah, I recreated one of the characters using the rules. It worked well. So it worked good.
Wow.
Yeah.
Very good to hear.
And you ran that, or
No, I wanted to see if I could create a character and what it would look like. I'll tell you, the first thing, even though I'm a GM, my entry point to every game is the character sheet. Like, so if there's a book on the shelf, if I take the book off the shelf and I turn to the character sheet page, and it doesn't grip me, putting it back on the shelf. I don't care about and it's odd because I'm GMing, but as odd as it sounds, I want I want an interesting character sheet.
So what's interesting about you saying that is I do the same thing, but I don't use character sheets. So I always any system, unless it's an ultra complicated system, I'll just use
Yeah,
line paper or a piece of paper and write out the character.
yeah,
But I do that too. When I pick up a role playing book, I
yeah.
look at the character sheet first.
Funny thing
Yeah.
is, I don't really use them either. Not just because I GM. I will create my own character, but it's all about, does the character sheet trigger my imagination? Is it something that I go, yeah, the person behind this gets it? Because the minimalist systems, I mean, and this is an interesting question. If you think about OSR and certain types of systems, some of them I categorize the system was designed for the GM, and others I go the system was designed for the players. And 5e is the best example of that. I think 5e is a game that was designed for players, not
Mm.
GMs. Whereas OSR probably goes in the other direction. It's more for the GM. It's a GM driven movement versus a player driven movement. If it wasn't for GMs, I don't think OSR would exist. I don't think players would be clamoring uh, to get there. I think the GMs drew them there.
That may well be that makes some sense to me, and a lot of people who've been playing since then, since the old days, are probably GMs and that are still
Yeah.
playing now, right?
Yeah.
Um, but
Yeah, so we're
but
gonna have to put on the schedule a modern age of adventure game. I'll run it. I don't mind running it. Or
Oh, I'll
if
be
you want,
there.
you just
yeah,
tell me
You've
when you
heard it
want to do
first.
that worldwide monthly gaming event, the modern age of
okay,
adventure. We can do it as long
all
as we
right.
can do it a day. I
Do
can
it.
play because
Because I
I,
do love those.
I've got to stream
I
that.
like. Yeah, your system definitely falls into the simplistic, but also has depth, and it just kind of works, right? It's like
Thank
it's
you.
like I have a system that's similar, like the Skull Die system or my Quickfire
Mm.
system. It's a simplified version, great for one shots, and it just works.
Your skull die, well, I call it your skull die because you're the first game master that used it in a game that I knew of. But I was telling Dwight in the last episode that I played in a game, IC RPG, and it was on the IC VTT, which is made just for the IC RPG. And guess what they had on the screen?
Skull Die, yeah.
Skull
Well,
die!
there's these things that get invented simultaneously. So the Skull Die was invented at our table in 1994.
Oh, okay. All right. You did invent it then. Nice.
Well, I don't know if I did, because the reason why I didn't come up with it, I was at a game store and I saw a die 6 where the 1 was replaced by a skull, and I was like, that is
Oh,
so
I've got one of
cool.
those.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I bought it, and it just sat in the dice tray for a long time, and then one night it was like, somebody wanted, what are the there was like, I want to do something, what are the odds? I was just like, why don't you roll the skull die? And if the skull comes up, something bad happens. And that's it. That was the origin. But yeah, it was 1994. So I think I have a bit of a head start. But technically, I would argue, I guess whoever came up with that die came up with the idea.
It was funny though, for him, it was a skull dice sort of in reverse. The one was for the players. So it was, he flipped
Okay.
it.
I've
Yeah.
yeah, I've seen dice that have the 6 as a skull instead of the 1. Yeah.
I hate that. I hate that inconsistency with dice in general, where some dice have it on the 6 and some dice have it on the 1. Because
Yeah.
then when you're rolling mixed dice, you're like, well, you see the symbol, you don't know. You got to look now, pick it up and see
Yeah.
which. Like the old days
Oh,
when you
don't
had to
get me
see whether it
started
was a
about
10,
dice.
whether is it a 19 or a 9, and you got to look real close because you've etched the 1 onto the
Oh,
19 on the old dice.
some in-person like once a month they play in in-person games, and sometimes players roll dice, and unless you know what those dice mean, you could be saying any number because they're all just really weird and similar sort of things. They got symbols instead of numbers, or you can't
Yeah.
even read them.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
There you go.
something
Look
we're
at
nearing
that.
the
Awesome.
we're nearing the end probably of this episode, but one of the things you to take us back to the beginning when you were mentioned that if you had to run fantasy all year, that would be not, that wouldn't be fun. You had different, more colorful like language when you said it, but um, would it change if the fantasy you were running could do everything? Like, for example, just as an example, I throw it out there, not because I invented it or anything like that, but when I'm running my Faraway Land campaign, each session is very driven by what is either happening now or what mood I'm in. If you
Yeah.
guys the showrunner, like because we've had like I was playing Darkest Dungeon once, and I've had to stop doing this, but
Oh
I
yeah.
used to play it
Yeah.
before my game sessions, and then we'd have these horror sessions. These would be
Yeah.
end up being deep
Yeah.
horror. And then because of the world of Faraway Land and how dynamic it is, we've had spaceship combats and we've been to other planets and there's all sorts of things in here, and that's not unique to Faraway Land, but
No. No.
you could do we've
Oh
they did a murder mystery, like a
yeah.
detective thing in the
I
campaign.
think
So
that
you could have all these.
I think that would extend the interest perhaps, but I'll tell you, and this is just a personal preference. I really don't like crossing genres. Like spaceships have
Mhm.
no place in fantasy. Like if somebody said, if somebody said, "Hey, do you want to join a game of Spelljammer?" That would be like, "Hey, do you want the plague?" I don't want. Like I
Oh, we
don't
just
like.
lost all our Spelljammer fans. Oh no, they all
Oh
just
I know.
no.
disconnected.
I
All
don't.
three of
Yeah,
them
I'm a
that exist.
purist. Like I want. So for me, like I've fallen out of favor with modern D&D. I'm not a fan because uh, if you are playing even though I'm not necessarily a fan of OSR, I'm also, yeah, you're not going to be a half dragon or a cat person or it's become too fantastical, like high fantasy. I like low fantasy. So for me, Lord of the Rings is always the go-to ideal. And it's not that, and again, I have friends. Most of my friends like it, and I get it. It has nothing to do with. I think there's some awesome settings, and and those characters, and I love that players have that flexibility. But for me, it comes back to growing up. When I was growing up, so I think about Forgotten Realms, which is the setting we played in. So Drizzt to Urban, and I forget as Curse of Azure Bonds. There was a dragon. There was a dragon
Dragon bait.
kind dragon bait.
Yeah.
When those characters were special, right? When they were and a half orc. So I remember one player played a half orc, and the whole thing about them being a half orc was very special to the campaign. Um, and so the problem that I find is that with variety, you lose the uniqueness of things. So, and it's not unusual. So if I've joined a couple of games online, D&D games, where I'm like, nobody's human. Nobody,
No. Yeah, I can see that.
right?
Yeah.
Nobody's human. Nobody's elf. Nobody's dwarf or halfling. Um, and that
Mm.
just doesn't. And that's great, but it's not it's not the fantasy that I kind of that I lean towards because it's not what I grew up with. I want. I don't mind the odd character, but I want them to be unique. I want them to be special. I don't want them to just be part of the mix. I guess if that makes sense.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no. I catch that. Yeah,
Yeah.
the loss of specialness by too much. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh
Like Drow,
age.
Drow were really sorry. I'll just say like Drow were really, when you had a character who was I remember a character that was half Drow, and that was just so whoa, it's like so impactful on the story. Whereas
Yes.
now it wouldn't even be a part of the story, right?
Well, and they wouldn't know, yeah, yeah. That leads us into, I think we could
Yeah,
deviate with the drow
yeah.
thing. I have stories about drow from high school. I don't want to go down that road. Age, is there anything you want to kind of promote or talk about at the end of the episode?
Uh, No, I mean we obviously Furiously Eclectic Discord. I run games on that every month and online. But no, Age of Adventure. That's where you can find me everywhere on Discord or Instagram, YouTube. Look out for that.
And Phzoul, anything for you?
Yeah, so one shot RPG stuff is on Drive Through RPG. You can just look up one shot RPG. There's everything from cyberpunk to Vikings to fantasy to horror. I mean, it's there's quite a variety of things there, and everything is pay what you want. I don't set prices. You can pay zero if you want. I just want people to enjoy and download. I have one upcoming title which I'm trying to get finished. I'm about 60% through, and that's that Backrooms adventure that
Oh,
you
wow.
played in Dwight.
That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, so I'm trying to get that out in the next couple of weeks. An
Awesome.
anthology, yeah, the Backrooms anthology.
I think we mentioned that last episode, or it might have been on Age's podcast where we talked about where you did the 4 hours with each
Well, the
hour was a
idea,
different
yeah,
adventure.
Yeah, that's
four
amazing.
adventures,
Yeah, I never
four
played it,
adventures in
but
4 hours. Yeah,
That was awesome. I
yeah.
loved that.
Well, I love, and I guess I know we're out of time, but I was just one last question towards Age. I love the idea of sitting down and going, what can I do that I've never done before when it comes to a GM? I like to do that all the time. Do you ever, like, is that something that you think about?
what in planning adventures?
Just in GMing style. So, for example, so the one like doing 4 adventures in 4 hours on the Lord of the Rings game that we played, Dwight. I don't know if you noticed at the beginning. I went, it's going to be flashbacks.
Hmm.
When I originally wrote that adventure, it was sequential. You would it's kind of like you start in a four note terrain, and then I was like, nope, we're going to start in a battle, and during the battle, we're going to do flashbacks to the characters' beginnings. Um, so I like to try and experiment, I guess, with different techniques, almost like filmmaking,
Mm.
to try and have it be more impactful. So there's one Professor Dungeon Master. There's one that I really recommend, and I learned it from him. But you could try it, Age, in the next adventure. It's called In Mede Res, which means you start in the middle of something. So you don't do you're at a tavern, you meet your patron. Nope, you start with the arrows flying, and then after you have that kind of adrenaline kind of start, then you can start filling in some of the details. I highly recommend it. It's a very useful technique for getting games off quickly with momentum.
I would agree, and that's why I started that traveler adventure
Yeah,
with the mist jump, like everything going
yeah, you're
crazy
right.
right at the
Yeah,
start.
yeah,
That
that's right.
was my idea behind that, is to have action right
Yeah,
away, and then you guys can slow down and figure out what you want to
yeah,
do.
yeah, for sure. It's just very effective, especially at
Yeah.
conventions.
It
Yeah,
engages everybody right away. Yeah.
yeah,
I agree. And I even in the campaign, I remember talking to Michael Mirth about the idea. He was running Call of Cthulhu, and I was running Faraway Land, of course. And we talked about this idea of ending on cliffhangers so that you start your next session in
yeah.
the middle of your
That's a
combat
great
instead
idea.
of
Yeah,
talking about what are we going to do today kind of thing. And
for sure. Yeah,
sometimes
I
I really like
100%
that.
agree with that. Yeah, yeah,
Um, what was I going to do? Oh, I did want to mention that July 26th, be 27th in Australia, there is the Holmes kind of Memorial Month going on in July, and as well as the Holmes Gygax month. And there's a Holmes game called The Treasure of Barlone, run by Alex Zish. That is in the event schedule. If anybody listening wants to sign up for an old school adventure, it will be there. And I'll just ask you guys a quick question. You can only answer in like one sentence, 2 sentences max. Age, pre-gens, or have them make their own characters?
Pre-gens, but I don't mind them making their character outside of the session.
Phzoul?
strongly opposed to pre-gens. I don't want to. I don't want. I do not want to play someone else's character. I don't want to play someone else's character. Like so. I'm sorry, this is 2 sentences, but as a GM, you're saying you're going to play my story with my characters. Nope. I
That's
want to
more than one
play.
sentence.
I want to play my story. I want to play your story with my character. That's it. Yeah.
Awesome. Just to see what Mad Bird has here. Gleb starts all the cyberpunk games like that. You have to get out of a sticky street situation before you even get the hook. Pre-gen, so the PCs have to stretch. All right, we'll call that. I'm Kersus. We're on the Fiercely Eclectic Discord server, to the Fiercely Eclectic podcast, and I'm with
Age of Adventure.
and
Phzoul.
That was the show. You heard